So team, welcome to implementation of Agile using VSO, Visual Studio Online or Team Services Day 2. Before we even getting into what is Agile methodology or using the tool of Visual Studio, what we are discussing is, we are trying to understand the existing waterfall model for two reasons. One, there might be somebody directly joining without the prior knowledge of software development lifecycle. Two, there are lots of acronyms or the words that people carry forward from waterfall to there, and we slightly use them differently in Agile. So that's the reason, and also we will be able to differentiate it better only when we know the classic model that was existing. So we'll be completing that today, and then the next class we'll be starting with Agile methodology, and then after, once we understand the major deliverables in the Agile, the life cycle and everything, within 2 days we'll be starting with Visual Studio Online as well. Because once we start with the tool, I don't want to keep getting the questions from can you explain what is product backlog, or can you explain what is user story, or can you explain what is Scrum meeting. So that's why we are trying to spend as much as time, the first 3 to 5 sessions on the fundamentals of it, and then we'll go into the tool. Once we go into the tool, it will be definitely like I will try to divide it into 2 Scrum teams, and then we'll play like a real Agile for the 7 to 8 sessions. All right. So yesterday we were talking about the designing phase, and I told you in designing phase is where the main team who will be participating is the designing team or somebody from the development team itself, who are senior, obviously. So they will come up with something called high-level design and low-level design. When it comes to the testing team, we will prepare the master test plan or test strategy. Sometimes we try to combine it into one. Sometimes we separate as a 2 different documents based on the complexity of the project. Typically, if you look into a master test plan, did any of you have an experience of writing or seeing a master test plan? You will have these kind of contents. One is the objective of the testing, what you're trying to do, objective of the project, the scope, the activities, what are the test deliverables the team is going to do, the resources, hardware and software needed, schedule, automation, the test management and defect management tools, and how do you categorize your defects. Like, they will give the definition of severity and priority here mostly. So that's what they try to do. Then what is exit criteria? When can you say that you have completed your testing? So I gave, typically this is what we generally try to do. All the test cases are executed at least once. This is the criteria. All the test cases are executed at least once. Sometimes we try to do it in 2 cycles, but at least once. And if you don't have severity 1 issues, severity 2 issues, and depending on the type of the project, there can be few severity 3 issues and any number of severity 4 issues. So this is what typically goes into master test plan. So that's what happens during the design phase of the life cycle. So any questions till now, whatever we have discussed so far? People who are just joining today, the strong recommendation is to watch the orientation session followed by day 1 that we have done yesterday, and today we are into day 2. This course is going to go around 15 to 16 sessions. Alright, so any questions till now? No responses, friends. Is everything fine? Okay, what about others? Alright, so I'll assume, okay, cool. The next thing that we have is so any idea what is the next phase? Typically after design, how many of you are familiar with already waterfall model or in general software development lifecycle? Okay, Sabita is saying development, Dilbar is saying prototype. So typically both are correct, actually speaking. So it's not that in every project it must and should do to prototype, but if you do prototype, it is always better. Especially you can avoid the um, no test is not yet right. So either development or prototype. If it is a big project, it is always recommended to spend some time, develop a prototype, and show it to the client. Get an opinion from him before you actually start writing the code, rather than actually writing the code and then completing the code and then customers say no, this is not I've expected. So generally it is always recommended to go with prototype. For the benefit of the people who are new to this, so any idea what is prototype? Simulated copy of the actual system that we wanted to develop. So we wanted to construct a big building. So before that, a prototype is getting prepared with all the looks and feels, with the the kind of the infra wise, everything will be there. But the only thing is there's no functionality is being implemented. So there are a lot of various prototyping tools available in the market which can be utilized, and this prototyping also should not take too long. If it is a 6 months of waterfall model, hardly they spend about 3 to 4 days or max to max a week on the prototype. And then we'll see what happens in Agile, whether this will exist, does not exist. If it exists, what will happen. So we'll talk about that. But it's going to be a quickly and rapidly developed simulated copy of the actual system that we want to develop. Then after that, what we will do is, who will be developing is obviously the development team. Develop the prototype and get it reviewed by test team, obviously, PM and client. Every deliverable before it goes to the client or customer, the testing team, it is a responsibility to review, or basically we do call verification or validation. So until now, until prototype, what we're going to do is called verification. But from the next phase onwards, when the actual system is ready, what you're going to do is called validation. So review the prototype and provide comments, or log issues if there are any. The main thing what we try to do is we get a sign off from the client, get it reviewed by the client, that's most important, and get a sign off. Because in waterfall model, after here there is going to be a huge gap between the customer and the company. After this, almost customer will not be active with the company who is developing the project for almost 2 to 3 months minimum. Only again we will call him after development is completed, testing is completed. And there are lots of things can go wrong in those long period of time. So it is always better to get it reviewed by client, also get a sign off from him. But Agile, it's not going to be like that. And Agile, what's going to happen is you won't get this much gap at all, and client is always engaged. Client is always engaged with the development team. For two reasons. One, whatever the clarifications that we need, we will ask. Whatever the changes that will come from his side also, he will come and give the input for us so that we keep changing dynamically. But this is one of the important phase that you need to understand. After this, the client won't be active for a very long time in waterfall. Okay, so once he says the prototype is okay, so that's when we will be actually starting the development. So I'll treat this phase as coding or development. So what will happen typically here is development team prepares the code. Any other idea what they do? They just prepare the code or they do anything else? Yeah, they prepare the code, then code reviews they will conduct, code reviews by peers. That is also very important. The most important is unit testing, as you all saying. Unit testing. So it is a responsibility of the development team. So they will do the coding, do the code reviews by each other. Suppose if a developer 1 has done something, developer 2 is going to review, and whatever developer 2 has done, developer 1 will review. And after that, whatever the unit, so typically what will happen is they will divide the entire project into modules. So in waterfall, this is how it used to work. So this is the whole project. This will be divided into various modules. And these modules are further divided into sub-modules or directly smaller units. And when I say this is modules and these are units, when I say unit, it is the smallest component. It is the smallest component of the system, and that can be developed by a developer in 1 day or max 1 week, not more than that. So even sometimes we used to go a deliverable up to 1 week as well. But it is the smallest component in the system. We cannot further divide, and that is what it is going to take 1 week. Since you got the whole project requirement in the beginning, and that has many modules, and the modules can be further divided into units, and this is what we used to do, and the unit used to be allocated for the developer. But in Agile, what we are going to do is, this 1 week is too long. 1 week, we may complete 25% of the project work. And if some things go wrong in this 1 week, we cannot control. So what we're going to do in Agile is we're going to create the tasks. We're going to create the tasks for every member in the Scrum team, be it developer, be it tester, be it support team, in such a way that the task cannot go beyond 1 day. Max it will go 1 day. So that means if you start in the morning, you should be able to finish this task. and that's where during the stand-up discussion you will be able to say the status, whether it is completed, not completed, what happened to it. But there, even the smallest to smallest unit can go up to 1 week as well in the waterfall. But here, whatever the task you try to do, max it should not go beyond 1 day. So that's what is unit. Unit is the smallest component of the system that can be done by one developer in 1 day or max 1 week. If you want, I can just put the definition here. The smallest component of the system that can be developed by single developer in a day or 2. Max you can go up to 1 week as well. So this is what every developer will be busy in doing. Any idea what testing team is going to do at this point of the time? When the developers are writing the code, what the testing team is going to do? So Anil is rightly saying we'll prepare test cases. Nagavina is also saying the same. Alright, so what you're going to do is prepare the test scenarios. Test scenarios, test cases, test data, all these. All these are very, very important. Scenario, if you want to still understand the difference, for example, as a user, let's say I want to go to an e-commerce application and search a product. That is a scenario. Where the test cases would be, I would search with its unique product ID, or I may search with product name, or I may search with a product definition, or I may search with a product being added to the system in the last 1 week, or I may search with a product within the range of price X and Y. There are many ways I can search. So that's going to be the test cases. But searching the product is a scenario. How you're going to search, what is the different input that you're going to try is your test case. And definitely if I wanted to search with things like product ID, product name, description, so I need to have the test data ready for that. So preparing the test data is also going to take time. To be frank, these things are not going to change much in Agile. You will be still writing the test cases. You will be still preparing the test data, but you may not really prepare the scenarios. Or the other way. If you do not have really much time, you will only be preparing the scenarios, and the test cases and data you will be actually dynamically thinking of the cases and dynamically feeding the data. So there are two different things can happen. People only prepare the scenarios during the Agile and start going to execute them. Or if they already have the test cases in the product, so they'll continue adding more cases for new features that are going to come, or execute the existing test cases for the regression testing. So that's going to happen. So that is what the coding or development phase itself. And here, client was no way come into the picture. Here, until now, you can see client was very active. Even in the design also, did I explain before we go to prototype? Actually, just missed that point. So, client review the design and master test plan. Provide sign off. So we'll take sign off from him even during the design as well. So client was very active during the design. Client was active during the requirements as well. I'll just quickly check that point whether yeah, client review, so that is also very important. So client was very active till now, and this is the only phase where we don't take any sign off from the client. Okay, but this is what the team is going to do. Then comes the testing phase or stabilization phase. Why we are calling it as stabilize? Because after a product is developed, there will be n number of issues. You are eliminating all those issues and trying to stabilize the product, trying to make the product more stable. That's why we call this phase as stabilization. Heard of this before or for the first time? Testing phase is also called stabilization. All right. So what do you think will happen here? So who will be coming first, or who will be doing what? So test team performs integration testing. The unit testing is completed. Now the team is going to check like this. So these units are tested. Unit 1, Unit 2, I'm just taking the other order, Unit 3, etc. But we as a testing team now will check the integration between, let's say we have a Unit 1 is to do some task and Unit 2 is to perform some feature. But there is an integration between these two. Unit 1 will pass the input to Unit 2, then Unit 2 will do some operation, and then it will pass the output back to Unit 1, let's say. So that there is some kind of an integration. For example, to give you an idea, let's say in the same online shopping application, after you prepare your shopping cart, now your cart is ready. Let's say this is Unit 1, and there is a Unit 2 from where it will go into your, let's say maybe this is your previous order details. So once you confirm the order, or let's say once you confirm the order, it will try to show your shipping address. The shipping address is being generated when you are actually registering it to the system from another unit stored in the backend, and from the backend it is trying to pick and show you. So there is one unit, another unit, and there is an integration. Similarly, after you prepare the orders, you go to another screen where you want to see all your orders history. So this order, whatever you generated from Unit 1 now, also will be displayed in the order history. So like that, there is integration between different units. So you want to test that combined functionality. Performs the integration testing. What is integration testing? Verifying the combined functionality of different units. So after they integrated together, whether it is working or not, you're going to test it. To be frank, that won't change. Even you go to Agile or whatever the methodology, you're going to perform integration testing. Testing team performs system testing, system or end-to-end testing. So here you're going to test the entire system. This is your entire project. So you'll test all the units are working fine or not, all the modules are working fine or not. You even test your system integrating with other systems. For example, in this online um, shopping application, when you want to make the payments, you will connect it to a third-party payment gateway system. You may connect it to other uh, related systems of the same company or a different company. So you'll check all that. So you'll check the combined functionality of the entire system. And this is going to be the longest taking time for you. So with this, I would say it's like functional testing is completed, right? Functional testing. What is functional testing? It's nothing but your unit test, which is already done by developers. Then you do integration test and you do system test. The main purpose of the functional testing is to ensure the functional requirements in the SRS, whatever, yesterday I was talking about, SRS contains two things, functional and non-functional requirements, right? So whatever is given as a functional requirements, ensuring that all those functional requirements are working properly or correctly implemented properly. So you're going to mainly focus on the functionality of the system, like registering yourself, logging into yourself, searching for products, checking the product descriptions, ordering, etc., etc. Apart from functional testing, we also perform many other testings, right? So we perform security testing. Nowadays, this is the most and basic, especially for e-commerce kind of domains. The security is majorly important because you're going to give all your personal details, credit cards, information, banking details, and everything. So security testing is the most important. Comes the load. What is the maximum number of users that we can support? Are we good for the upcoming holiday season? We can support the required load or not, whatever the number. It could be 100,000, 200,000, what we're targeting. So whether we are good for supporting that load testing or not. If 100,000 people are working, what is the performance of my system? So we're going to focus on performance testing. We're going to focus on stress testing. Stress is basically where you apply the load beyond the normal capacity. Normal capacity, let's say your system can support 100,000 users max, but you wanted to give it a try going beyond that and see what will happen to your system. Similarly, you wanted to give a very complex queries to the system or complex reports generations to the system and see what will happen. So you apply heavy stress on the system. Then there are various other testings, like you do database testing, whether the information is storing in the required tables or not. So you do database testing, you do GUI related testing, you do usability testing. Very important is accessibility testing, whether your system is accessible for all kinds of users, blind people, color blind people, low vision people. So you'll ensure it's accessible for everyone. Any other thoughts that you have at this moment? So you do lots of things that you have really planned in your master test plan. Whatever is planned in the master test plan, you're going to do only those. If something was not really planned in master test plan, then there are highly chances that it's not part of your execution. And not only that, so during the performance of this, what you're going to do, you will log the defects into the defect management tool. As in when you get the defects, you log the defects into the defect management tool. And also one another thing that will happen here is a defect triage meeting. Participate in defect triage meeting. Participate in defect triage meeting. Any idea about this? What is a defect triage meeting? Heard of this previously? If yes, what is the purpose of this? Heard of this defect triage meeting? Yes, no? Discussing about the defects is what Nagamina is saying. Okay. What is the outcome of this? Okay, if they discuss about the defects, what will be the outcome of it? So a couple of things. One is to decide whether it is defect or not. First point, it's not that everything that you log, for you it might look like a defect, but for the rest of the team it's not really looking like a defect. They are thinking it is as per the software requirement specification in waterfall model, or they are thinking it is as per the user story in agile model. So they're not treating this as defect. So that is one thing can happen, deciding whether it is defect or not. Second thing, deciding the severity is one another thing that's going to happen. So not every defect is of same criticality or complexity, as we all know. So we categorize them into severity 1, 2, 3, 4, and that definition, where does that should be explained? What do you mean by severity 1, or what do you mean by severity 4? Where that needs to be explained? Master test plan. Correct, like yesterday we discussed, right? So that should go into the master test plan, because tomorrow when you find a defect and when you log it, nobody should have an objection. Nobody should come back and say, why are you putting this as severity 2? Then you say, according to the definition that we all agreed in the master test plan, one of the major feature is down, so I'm putting it as severity 2. Deciding the severity is one thing, deciding the priority is also one other thing. But typically priority we alone cannot decide. Sometimes we may require to talk to client. So this is one another time I think we will we'll reach to the client if required. So who will be participating is PM. Definitely PM will be participating, dev lead, test lead, and client are the main participants of the defect triage. Client, not all the time, only when we need some information we will request him to join, but otherwise PM, dev lead and test lead will mostly drive this meeting. And I would see it's the driver of this meeting should be the test lead, because it is our responsibility. As soon as we log the defects, we ensure that somebody is taking care of it, somebody is looking at them. So that's why we will go ahead and conduct these meetings. And PM, because definitely there will be a there will be a lot of acceptances, rejectances from either of the teams from the dev and test, so PM should be there to really explain whether it is a problem or not. Similarly, in Agile, we will be having the Scrum Master and Product Owner to taking care of that role. All right. Any questions till now? Is all good till now, or any questions? Right. So this is what typically the testing phase is all about. Also, when there's one more thing, when the defects get fixed, is this tool any idea what tool to be used? Which one you're talking about, Anil? Specific to the explanation or specific to the VSO or specific, what is it you're asking about? Is this tool any idea what tool to be used? Can you please elaborate your question a little bit? I mean, while testing, which testing tool to use? Okay, that is a very, I would say, a generic question in terms of, okay. Her question is more about testing, so depending on what testing you're going to do, what is your application, whether you wanted to do functional testing or both functional and non-functional testing. So if it is functional testing and if it is something like only web application that you have, that's exactly the next point which I'm trying to do. So when the defects gets fixed, right, I'll cover it here. When the defects get fixed, the team performs regression testing. What is regression testing? Validating the impacted features or functionalities. So you have already tested all the features, and during the testing you have found some bugs, and now those bugs got fixed by the development team. So you're going to do again verification of those bug fixes, plus in which are the components they are going to have an impact. You're going to test all those components again, and that is what is called regression testing. And this is where we use the automation tools. So use the automation tools for regression because it takes time. It takes time. Now this is going to be a most critical in the Agile. The reason is because this is going to be more and more dynamic, more and more common in Agile. You will have a sprints going only for 4 weeks. Within the 4 weeks, your development team completes the development for certain feature, but after that a client come and will say, I want some modifications to be done here. You're almost done it. Let's say you're almost completed the testing also. Then client will come and say, do this modification, or another feature that's going to come next is getting modified, which is also dependent on the current feature what we're developing. So we'll have to go change the code, or your testing team has found some bugs and then we have to fix it. For whatever the reasons, the code, the changes are going to be very dynamic in Agile, and the development team is going to change the code more frequently. Then you are going to do more and more regression testing. You might have just completed the testing in the last 2 days, but again you may have to repeat because there is a change in the user story, or there is a change in the existing code that we have to do. And also considering the shorter life cycles that we have in the Agile, 4 weeks of a sprint delivery, automation is going to be the key. Unless you have an automation, you cannot really achieve what you wanted to do in that 4 weeks of sprint. So automation is going to play a major role in terms of Agile testing, or Agile development. Coming back to the question that Anil had it on the tool. So which tool? It's a big question that depends on what product you're using. So if my application is purely a web application, then probably I would go with something like Selenium. If my application is a Windows application, desktop application, then I might go with UFT or QTP, depending on it. Depending on the technologies being used in the application, will decide the tool. But if your question was more on the defects where we log, like Shweta was answering, this could be like, here I can say examples like Bugzilla, Jira, even the VSTS Visual Studio Test Suite that we're going to discuss. You can use all these tools for logging the bugs. Is this clear, Anil? So this is what the testing is going to do, doing all this regression testing and using automation tool that they have for the regression testing, etc. So then once they complete all the testing, once there are no issues or no bugs open, like if you go back to my exit criteria that I have explained yesterday and today, so they will perform system testing sign-off. So system testing sign-off is done by the test lead. So what test lead is going to do, he's going to send out a report to everybody saying, we have completed the testing. These are the modules we have tested. These are the features being tested, and these are total number of test cases that we have covered. And if there are any bugs open, severity 3 or severity 4, he will mention these are the opened issues, etc. So that report is going to be like a sign-off report, and after that what will happen is, any idea? After you complete system testing sign-off, what's going to happen? User acceptance testing, right? So the next thing is user acceptance testing. This is going to still remain, no change in the Agile. People are going to perform whatever it is, the methodology, they will still perform user acceptance testing to ensure before we put something into production, is it working fine or not. So what is user acceptance testing? testing done by the users of the system in client place, not in the actual place where it is developed. So typically what we will have it is in a product, we will have different environments. Like you have a production production environment, which is a live environment. This is the live of your system. Before live, you will have UAT, user acceptance testing environment, and these two are like same. Okay, Savita is saying RTM, ready to manufacture. Sorry, ready to market, right? So is it a market ready product or not? To check that. What is that in your case of RTM? Oh, we're talking about requirements traceability matrix. That comes as soon as you prepare your test cases. So if we go back, where were we writing the test cases? During the coding phase, you're writing the test cases, right? So this is where you prepare the requirement traceability matrix. The purpose of this is to ensure no requirement is missed during the preparation of the test cases. Yeah, this is a very important thing. When you're actually writing the test cases, you will ensure that you are not missing any requirement. That is the first point. And sometimes it also happens the testers have seen similar products outside and they may think our products should also be like that, and they'll start logging the issues. But typically the development team, how they're going to implement it is only if it is there in the software requirement specification, or if it is mentioned in the user story of Agile, then only they're going to implement it. So you cannot just by looking at a similar, of course you can give it a suggestion, and it is a project manager or product owner can discuss with the client and then decide if it is really a good feature. You should not stop giving suggestions, but it's not that every suggestion needs to be implemented. So that's why typically we log it as a severity 4 issues as generally. Okay, Sakshi says she cannot hear me. Is it the case with everyone? Is audio clear? I think it's clear, yeah. Probably she needs to log out and log in. Oh, okay, sorry. So what I was saying is you will ensure that all the requirements are covered during the test cases. At the same time, you won't come up with some test case even though there is no requirement. So typically you're going to prepare a simple table here. I'll just put it, and we'll see this in VSO how we are going to address this. So you're going to simply put one table here. So you're going to take all requirements one side, and then you will have all your test cases on the other side. Suppose there is a requirement 1.0.1, and let's say you have your test case 1 here, and you can say this is covered. There is a test case 2, and let's say there is a requirement 1.0.2, 0.2, and that is covering this. But when you do this, you figure it out. There is a requirement 2.0.1, and you did not have a test case for it. So you got something that is missed during your test case writing, the requirement 2.0.1. So you'll go back and you'll write your test case for that. So that's the whole idea of this, and this traceability, we're going to do it very interestingly in the Visual Studio team services, or the online tool that we're going to look at. So thanks for bringing me that point. I forgot, Sabita. Okay, so that's very important, and it's not going to be, it is going to be taken care even it is whatever waterfall, agile, doesn't matter. So testing by the users of the system in the client place. So I was talking about the other different environments. So you have production, you have UAT, and then before that we will have a system testing environment. Before that you will have integration testing environment, and before that you will have the actual development environment. So there will be different environments. Here the developers will write the code and do unit testing. This is what we do it for our testing purpose. This is what I'm actually talking about clients being doing here. Clients will do the user acceptance testing here. And these two, user acceptance testing and production, are almost alike. So if anything is not working in UAT, it's 100% that it won't work in production. It's that kind of similarity you will have. So testing by the users of the system in the client place. And reporting any issues. So that's what is going to happen, and what we are going to do as a dev and test team is will support the UAT. So during the UAT we'll get into on-call and help them if they face any issues, because especially testing team, it is expected from us. As we have done the whole system testing, we know in and out of the system, or in and out of the feature that you have implemented, where it is working, where it is not working. So when the customers will say certain thing is not working, it is expected by the test team to proactively look into those issues and respond back to them, etc. So after this is done, then we will actually go into production or live. So we'll actually implement it. Implementation or deployment. So once these things are addressed, all the UAT and everything is addressed, so what we're going to do is we'll look at one fine day. If the subsystem needs to bring down, so we'll typically prefer a weekend, and then we will go deploy the new features or functionalities into the live environment, into the live environment. So that is what is implementation or deployment. After that, maintenance will start. Maintenance or warranty will start. So with the kind of agreement that you have between, okay. So we'll do one thing, because most of the projects what we're going to do currently is of, especially in Agile, what you're going to get are small features. Those are the maintenance enhancements to the existing products. So I'll be discussing this tomorrow, the first thing. And then tomorrow I'm going to introduce to the complete Agile development lifecycle as well. And then from day after tomorrow onwards, we'll be starting with the Visual Studio online tool. So any questions? Quick 1 minute, I'll take it if you have any questions, because I need to hand it over the, we have back-to-back sessions lined up. So just, I'll take quick 1 minute, since it is a day 2. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, the best way to contact us is, you can put your questions on the forum that we have in the iTeLearn. We'll be answering it over there. You can even drop us an email initially to start with, you can drop an email to learn@iTeLearn.com. If you want to directly contact me, you can drop me at this ID. This is my ID. Yeah. So that's all I have for today. And then we'll be continuing with this tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be the key for the starting of the Agile and getting onto the tool. So with that, I'll take a pause here. See you tomorrow at the same time. Please check out the timing in the email. There is a small change in the timing. We are going back to our original timing. Just these 2 days we were adjusting this time. So please do check an email. All right. Thank you, team.